Hey guys, in this lesson we would understand the relationship between degrees and radians. We know trigonometry relates angles and sides of a triangle. Now we would also learn that apart from describing angles in degrees, we can also describe angles in radians. So from now onwards, we would also know a different unit for angles, and that is radians. So angles can be described with degrees, angles can be described with radians. Radians can be of two types. One is when radians is written in numbers, and second is when radian is written with pi's. We can convert one unit of angle to another unit through conversion factors. Always remember 1 radian in numbers is equal to 57.3 degrees. So if we want to change radians in numbers to degrees, we have to multiply by 57.3. Similarly, if we want to change degrees to radians, we have to do inverse operation, and that is divide by 57.3. Now, radians and pi's and degrees can also be related. So if we want to change degrees to radians and pi's, then the rule is divide by 180 and multiply by pi. When we go in the reverse order, that is from radians and pi's to degrees, then inverse operations would work. So we would have to divide by pi in that case and multiply by 180 degrees. In the same way, we can relate radians and numbers with radians and pi's. This is a very simple relationship. So if we want to change radians and pi's to radians in numbers, we just have to multiply by the pi value, and that is 3.14. Reverse is the inverse operation, and that is divide by 3.14. Once we memorize these operations and their relationships, then we can easily apply them on their questions. Let's understand this with an example. Let's say we have to convert 180 degrees to pi radians. That means we are going from degrees to radians and pi's. So we will be checking this green relationship because we are going from degrees to radians. So it will be this top arrow, and the rule says we have to divide by 180 and multiply by pi. So we would use the given degrees divided by 180 multiply by pi. We can cancel the common numerator and denominator, and we are left with pi radians itself. We can write it as pi rads. Let's say the next question is to convert 75 degrees to pi radians. Again, we are using degrees and radians and pi's, and we are going from degrees to radians and pi. So we would use the same operation, divide by 180 multiply by pi. So we would take the given degrees, that is 75 degrees, divided by 180 degrees and multiply by pi. We do not have to use a calculator, we just have to use tables to write it down in lowest terms, so that this gives us the lowest term fractions with pi. And when we divide it, we get 5 over 12. So this gives us 5 by 12 pi radians. And this is how we write down 75 degrees in pi radians form. Let's take up another example for converting pi radians to degrees. Here we have to convert 5 by 3 pi radians to degrees. Since we are again using the relationship between degrees and pi radians, we have to use this green relationship. However, we are going from radians and pi's to degrees. So we use this rule, that is divide by pi multiply by 180. We would use this given value in pi radians, that is 5 pi by 3. We divide it by pi and we multiply it by 180 degrees. Pi and pi gets cancelled. 3 times 60 is 180. 5 times 60 is 300 degrees is the answer. Next we have is convert 75 degrees to number radians. Here we have to find the relationship between degrees and radians and numbers, and that is this yellow relationship. We are changing degrees to numbers. So that is this one. We have to divide it by 57.3. So all we would have to do is just divide 75 degrees with 57.3 degrees. And the answer that we get is 1.3 radians. We notice here we do not have any pi here. We have it in the form of a number. That number could be decimal or whole number. Next we have is to convert 2.5 radians to degrees. Now this radian value that is given to us is not with pi, so this is a number radian. So we are relating number radians to degrees in this question, and number radians to degrees is the yellow relationship because we are going from radians to degrees. So this is multiply by 57.3 is what we will be applying. So all we have to do is just multiply 2.5 with 57.3 and the answer that we get is 143.25 degrees. Next question we have is 3.41 radians to pi radians. So we notice here this is number radians and this is pi radians. Let's find out the relationship between number radians and pi radians. Number radians to pi radians is this blue relationship. Since we have to change the number from the number radians to pi radians, so we would use this bottom relationship, that is divide by 3.14. So all we have to do is just divide 3.41 with 3.14 and that would give us 1.09 pi radians. Let's do last example just for the sake of practice. Let's say we have to convert 2 pi radians to number radians. Since we are going from pi radians to number radians, we would look at this top rule and that is multiply by 3.14. Now here the question is 2 pi radians. So pi radian is basically our unit. So all we have to do is just multiply 2 with 3.14 and this would give us 6.28 radians. And this is how we do these conversion questions, be it radians in numbers or radians in pies or degrees. We just have to memorize the conversion factors and apply them in order to change the units of the angles.